guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming at you with a tutorial of sorts. I have a kind of step-by-step routine that I do for my under eyes on days where I'm wearing a little bit more makeup or have an event to go to, or I'm going on a date with Chad and I just want to look a little bit put together more so than I do on a daily no makeup day. And it just ensures that my concealer is going to look flawless, not creasy, but it's also going to be bright enough to get rid of my dark circles that I have very badly, but also look appropriate for a 37-year-old who doesn't need like super triangle bright under eyes, if that makes sense. At least that's my opinion. Everybody has their own. These are the steps. I do talk about tools that you use, tricks that you can do, products that I think are must-haves. So if you want to see how I make sure my concealer and my under eyes look the best all day long, then just keep on watching. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Now, like I said in the intro, this is not like necessarily the steps that I take every single day, especially if I'm not gonna be wearing makeup. But if I really wanna look put together and I wanna make sure that my under eyes look as flawless as they possibly can for a 37-year-old, then this is what I do. I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit. If you've been following my channel for any length of time, you know I am someone who believes in color correcting if you have extreme darkness under your eyes. I have extreme darkness under the eyes. The lights that I have here are very forgiving, and a lot of times my darkness doesn't come across as it truly is. But I can tell you that I have from here over, and I also have a bug bite on my nose. Isn't that lovely? From here over, and a smiley face on my hand, I have a lot of darkness. It is hereditary, but it also gets accentuated with tiredness or allergies, which I have a little bit of both right now. So, you know, I got some really dark under eyes. So I always color correct. This changes daily. I will use something like the Color Science Total Eye 3-in-1 Therapy SPF 35, which I've talked about a lot on my channel, on a daily basis, where I'm not as concerned about having a huge amount of color correction because this is a very light peachy salmon color, which is typically peaches and pinks and salmons and oranges are going to be the colors that you're going to want to choose to correct darkness. So I tend to either mix that with my concealers or I'll put that under my concealers for an everyday. I also like the Amazing Cosmetics one that I'm actually out of. It's in my empties now. But when I really want to make sure that my darkness is as completely obliterated as I can get it, I'm going to use something that is more orange. And today I'm going to use the Makeup Forever cream, Camouflage cream. And this is in the color number 20, which is their orange pot. Now, this looks scary. I get this. And typically when you're color correcting deeper skin tones, this is the color you're going to want to get. But if I know I'm using a full enough coverage concealer and I really have a lot of darkness, I'm going to reach for something like this. So I'm going to take a little bit on my finger. I'm going to warm it up on my finger, and I'm talking a little bit. Everything about this video is in moderation. Less is more. All these steps can be overdone very easily, and it's very important to make sure that you always start out with the least amount and build up if you need it, versus putting way too much on first and ruining the whole look. So I'm going to take this and I'm just going to tap it very gently. I mean, I wish you could feel how gentle I am being right now. I'm tapping just on the darkest part. So you can see I am not taking this all the way over here. I don't have darkness over here that I need to correct. There's no need to put product where you don't need it, especially when we're talking about the under eyes. I only patted it on the very darkest part. And I also, you may not be able to see, I can still see darkness through this. That is okay. Some under eye circles are never going to be completely covered. They just aren't. I mean, unless you want to look like you're going on stage somewhere, which nobody really wants to look like that face to face with someone, you're not going to get it completely covered. That is okay. I just don't want it to be as dark as it is now. So that's the step that I do for color correcting. In case someone asks, I do this step after I prime my face. So I do already have primer on my face. I don't want to do this and then go and rub and accidentally disrupt that part. So I have already applied primer to the face. You can very easily use a brush for this step. It's completely personal preference. I liked the fact that the warmth from my fingertips does soften the product a little bit, even though it's not really a hard cream. It is more of a soft cream anyhow. Okay, now is when I'm going to do my foundation. Now, the reason I do my foundation after my corrector is because if I were to already have like a nice flawless base of foundation and then go in with this orange, I may end up putting it somewhere I don't want it or too far down. The foundation will kind of smooth out those edges if in fact I did go a little heavy-handed with the color corrector. So I'm going to zip through my foundation real quick and then we'll come on to the next step for the under eye. Okay, so now that the foundation is done, you can see that that orange isn't as in your face because A, my skin is evened out, but B, also the foundation did kind of, like I said, take away some harsh edges. Now we're gonna go to concealer. Concealer is a complete and total preference as to formula, coverage, brand. It all comes down to what you like the most under your eyes. So I can't tell you what's gonna work best for you. I can only tell you what's gonna work best for me. And at this point in time, the one that works best for my under eyes is the Stellar Concealer. I always look for a name and I can't find one on here. But it's just the Stellar Concealer and it's in the color S01, which I believe is light medium. So I'm just gonna take this concealer where I normally do. Now, depending on your age, I'm definitely gonna make sure I cover up the yellow or the orange and go to right about there. Depending on your age, you can go up. I feel like it just really kind of depends on what look I'm doing. If I have a lot to clean up, I'll go over there. But again, we're doing a less is more kind of mentality thing here, and less is just more under my eyes. So I left a little bit under my lash line where I didn't go all the way up. And just like with every other concealer, I'm gonna start blending down here and then I'll start going up. I can take a little bit of the excess over here. If you choose to do that, that's fine too. Again, it's gonna be dependent on your personal under eyes. I'm gonna take a little bit of that concealer on top of this nice little bug bite. I mean, how does a bug get on your nose right there and you not realize that it's biting you? That is the question. In case somebody's gonna ask, I can't tell you why I love this concealer so much. I just know that on the days that I wear it, which really is very often lately because it works so well for me, my under eyes just stay crease free and smooth looking much longer than any other concealer. Okay, now this is probably where you're like, okay, now she's gonna set it. No, now I'm not. Now I'm either going to do cream products, which could be cream blush, cream bronzer, anything cream highlight that I'm going to want to use that day before I use powder. I'm going to do it this step. Today, I'm not going to use anything cream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop off the camera and I'm going to let these under eyes set for 3 to 5 minutes. I understand not everybody has time to do that every time they do makeup. This is why this is not an every time you do makeup thing. But again, when I want my under eyes to look flawless as they can be, this is what I do. So I'm gonna let this set before I set it for 3 to 5 minutes and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've waited about 5 minutes. So now what I'm gonna do before I zoom y'all back in, I'm gonna take my absolute favorite Q-tip of all time. And I know, I guess I should say cotton swab because it's not the Q-tip brand. And I know you're probably like, it's a cotton swab. What difference does it make? To me, these make a huge difference, especially for this purpose. And it's the Sephora brand Do It All cotton swabs. And they come in a package like this. There are 490 swabs in here, which is quite a bit. And I've already used a third of the package. I also use these in my kit. I use at least 2 of these, 2 to 3 on each client for different lip balm, eye cream, this purpose that I'm about to do, different purposes. So what I do is I take one of these and inevitably in this time that I have let the concealer set down, it has sunk into creases and fine lines. We all have them under our eyes. I don't care if you are 12. My 6-year-old has them under her eyes. So when you put product under it, it's going to kind of collect in that area. So what I do is I wait for it to collect and I take these. Instead of going back in with my beauty blender or my sponge to just buff it out, which I've done before, instead of doing that, I will take this and I will go and I will directly find the spots that it has collected. And I'm going to take this very skinny point and I'm just going to kind of dig that collected concealer out. So I'm not just moving it around or applying some more product that might still be on my beauty blender back onto my under eyes when I buff it out. I don't want any more product on. I want less product because it's already creasing. So hopefully that makes sense. So then I just take it and I will literally just go right in those creases and I'm taking that product out. If it's creasing in there, you don't want it anyways. So we are going to get rid of it once and for all. It's not disrupting the coverage, but it is taking unwanted product out. Now we are going to set our concealer. We are ready now because whatever you set stays and we don't want the creasing gunked up product to stay. So now that we've gotten rid of that, we are gonna set. I've said this many times before, my favorite is either the Beautycounter mattifying powder or the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder. I'm gonna use the Laura Mercier Secret Brightening Powder today. The brush that you set your eyes with, I'm gonna take you out just a little bit, makes a huge difference. A lot of times people will use brushes like these. These are just two BH Cosmetic brushes that I picked out because of the shape. You've got this, which is just like a teardrop shape. It's a little bit fluffier. It's not as dense, but it's still dense. I mean, it's gonna pick up a good amount of product. You've got this, which is again, is just a larger version of that tapered kind of brush. You know, synthetic, natural, it doesn't matter what kind of bristles. This is typically what I see people setting their under eyes with. I do not recommend baking your under eyes. I cannot stress that enough. I honestly don't see how these girls do it. I would really like to see them in person. I don't even most of the time, now I'm never gonna say never, but I don't even most of the time prefer to set with a damp beauty blender. I just think that under the eye, again, you need the most minimal amount of product. So to do that, I use a very fluffy eyeshadow blending brush. I have shown this many times before, but if you are new, my favorite, I believe, is Discontinued, but they bring it back randomly in the sale section. They've done it twice. So just keep a lookout for it, but it's the Sephora Pro Crease number 10 brush. I've already put powder on it so you can see the product on it, but you can see how it's fluffy. There goes some of the powder. It's small. You want fluffy and small. So I've put some powder on there and I'm going to tap off this powder until no powder taps off anymore, okay? We want not a lot of product on it, and that is where so many people go wrong. They put too much product. It does not take much to set your under eye. So then I'm gonna go under and I'm just gonna take it right here and I'm gonna lay it down. And then I'm gonna take it right here and I'm gonna lay it down. I'm gonna take it right here and I'm gonna lay it down. Lay it down, tap, 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 tap. Just like that. I don't care. Some people say go this way, then that. It doesn't matter to me. You go whatever way you want, but I'm just tapping. I'm not sweeping, I'm not rubbing, I'm tapping. And that has set your concealer. You do not need to go in a second time. I can't stress enough, if you have put the right amount of concealer on, if you have put the right type of concealer on, you don't need to go and do it again. I know people are gonna say, do you really think I need to set my concealer? I personally do. Even if you have super dry under eyes, they still crease. Dryness and oiliness has nothing to do with the lines under your eyes creasing when you make expressions throughout the day. It's just finding the right kind of powder. So this Secret Brightening Powder is great for dry under eyes. The NARS Crystal Setting Powder in pressed form is wonderful for under eyes. But that's how I personally think an under eye should be set. So when I look really up close, I don't see any extra product hanging out in the creases, and I don't see powder under my eyes. If you see powder under your eyes, you know that A, you've either used too much, or B, you're using the wrong powder. Or you're using the wrong brush, which it kind of goes hand in hand with using too much. Okay, I'm back and I have finished my makeup. And you're probably like, okay, you're done. No, I'm not done. I have one last step, which to me is the most important in ensuring that my eyes are as bright yet age appropriate and flawless as possible. Now, I say age appropriate because I personally just don't like using a super bright concealer. If you notice, the concealer I used wasn't that much different than my actual foundation color. I think that it really draws the eye to the fact that you're wearing a lot of makeup, and it also accentuates things you may not want to accentuate. So at this point in time, when I am done with my makeup, if I look at myself and I'm like, okay, I still see darkness, which I do, still see some darkness. Again, that's just the way it is for us people that have very dark under eyes. There's only so much you can do, but I really like to smoke out my lower lash line. Y'all know this. It's not something I'm willing to sacrifice in order to make my under eyes brighter, which I know that sounds kind of weird, but the more you smoke out your lower lash line, the darker it is. It almost reflects that shadow under your eyes and makes it more prominent. I'm not sacrificing that because I love it so much. So what I'm going to do is take a star product. This is something, if you have dark under eyes, you need this in your life. It is by Senna, and it is their anti-aging mineral highlighter in the HD Eye Lift #1. Long name, but this is it. Senna Cosmetics is a professional brand, but you can get them. I'll link it down below where you can get them. I love their cream blushes. I love their eyebrow palette. I carry a lot of their stuff in my kit. This is no different. So this is a kind of banana type powder. It's not super yellow. It's coming off more white in the viewfinder because of the lights, but it's not super duper yellow. It's just yellow enough to be brightening. I'm going to take the Wayne Goss number. This isn't a number. This is the airbrush. This is the brush that I prefer to use for this step. And I'm going to pick up a little bit of product on the back so you can see the color of the product a little bit better there. I'm going to tap it off, but it's pressed. It doesn't kick up a lot at all. And I'm going to place the brush right here, kind of at an angle, and then press it down and roll it. So this, because that is where the most darkness is, and then I'm just going to kind of drag it along and down. I really want to concentrate it on that trough of darkness right there. I hope that this amazing difference is coming across on camera like it does in the mirror that I'm holding up right now. This eye is automatically way brighter and way more flawless looking than this eye, just with using that small amount of powder. This powder does not accentuate lines. This powder, y'all, is a must have. I'm not sponsored. Senna doesn't know me from Eve. They have no idea I'm talking about this. I bought this with my own money, and I will continue to buy this with my own money. Because the magic that is in this powder, I do kind of bring whatever's left down. I mean, do you see that? Do you see how much brighter it makes your under eyes? Without adding any extra product. So it's not like you're gunking up your eyes with more stuff that's going to make it crease and crack, because you're not. So that's the final step. When I'm completely done, I don't do this right away because sometimes I don't need it. It just depends on if you need it. If you don't need it, don't use it. But when I'm finally done with my makeup and I look in the mirror and I see it's just a little darker than I want, this is what is going to save the day. So that is my step-by-step kind of tutorial on how I ensure that I have flawless under eyes all day long when I know that that is something I really want throughout the day and it's going to match the makeup and event and just my life for that day. So hopefully this gave you some kind of tips and tricks and products. If anything, take away from this, the Senna powder, they do have 2 different colors in this, by the way. So if you're darker skin, they do have one that will work, #2 for darker skin. And the size of the brush, the Q-tip trick I mean, just like the tips and tricks you picked up, just, I really think that they all make a huge difference, or I wouldn't do them. So hopefully this was helpful. As always, be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.